Welcome to the Wealth Without Wall Street podcast, your guide to understanding how to get out of the Wall Street rat race and start your own mailbox money lifestyle. Now, don't let these handsome Southern draws fool you. These financial minds are teaching our country to enhance savings, increase cash flow, and create passive income, all without the help of Wall Street. Are you ready to break through? Now here are your hosts, Russ Morgan and Joey Murray.
If you've been listening to our podcast, you're like, man, I love what you guys are talking about. I want to build passive income through one of these 5 pillars that you're talking about, but how do I do it? Stallion, tell them. It is so easy.
So easy that we created the longest URL possible, so you may want to write this down, freecall.wealthwithoutwallstreet.com. Go to freecall.wealthwithoutwallstreet.com, and you can set up your call with one of us. We're excited to talk to you. Welcome. This is the Wealth Without Wall Street podcast. Your host, Joey, the Italian Stallion Murray, joined as always by my good friend, Russ, the idea guy, Morgan. Russ, okay, break it down for us. How important is community?
Community is everything, I believe.
We're talking about being surrounded, like-minded people, moving in the same direction. Well, I'm defining it for you.
Yeah, I think that, we're unashamedly believers, right? We share our faith on this podcast constantly. And one of the calls for us as Christians for corporate worship is to be there to do what? Encourage the saints.
That's right.
It is to encourage those around us. And I think community is not only to encourage others, but we are encouraged by others. So community is everything. When we're trying to parent our kids, we need to have community with those around us to see how they're doing it. Well, how can they add value in our lives?
Even think about this. I think inherently, maybe you agree with me, maybe you don't. I think inherently at the very baseline, how we are created to be a part of something bigger than ourselves. Agree or not?
No, absolutely. Yeah, I agree.
I think that's just one of those things that we have. We feel the need. We want to be supported, right? We want to maximize and accomplish our goals. And by having people around us that are cheering us on, supporting us, we're going to get there much better than we can on this DIY kind of this silo deal that we're so often put in.
Well, I think of many years ago, I was at this conference and Simon Sinek actually was one of the headliners. He was one of the keynote speakers, and he talked on this kind of concept of tribe. He talked on the value we have when we feel protected when we're within a community, and how that opens us up to do other things. That's where innovation within businesses happen, when they feel that they have the ability to take advantage of opportunities. And I see that within what we're doing. I see how much value there is when our clients feel a part of the community as opposed to being a Lone Ranger.
So you're saying you don't want to be the Lone Ranger?
Well, I don't mind the character of Lone Ranger from the TV. I don't want to be Tonto now.
So I have to be Tonto.
You have to.
Is what you're saying.
I want to be on the horse with the mask.
You want to be the hero. You just want me to be the guy. That little that joker that can smell things and give you direction. Hey, Lone Ranger, don't go that way. Actually, I don't remember anything about that show except for that.
I don't either.
Silver,
I just remember
Tonto.
The Lone Ranger seemed to be really cool on the show, but yeah, I was too little to remember all the aspects behind it. But I do know that if we are not in community, right? If we are the Lone Ranger, not in the cool way, but in a way that we feel like we're actually in this isolation. We're in this. We're the only one doing it.
Oh.
Or maybe even worse, we're part of the wrong community.
Okay. All right. Now, we're applying this to the financial journey we're all on, right? So the wrong community could be what? Let's fill in the blanks there.
Well, how many of your friends are out there invested in mutual funds and stocks?
I mean, that's the herd, right? That's the vast majority of people.
Well, it's just like the other day you made a reference on our podcast about, Hey, Greg, how's your portfolio doing? Right?
Strong to quite strong.
That's the community of Wall Street that a lot of people either feel like they need to be a part of, or maybe they are, but it's not helping them get closer to financial freedom. So that could be the wrong community, but there's so many people doing it that we almost feel like, oh, well, this is what I should do.
Right. Absolutely. And so when you make that step into going against the grain, going outside of that Wall Street mindset, immediately you're empowered. Like you love the idea of it because it inherently you knew something was wrong, and now it's kind of like, oh, this is the alternative. But it's so easy to slip back into that mindset if you're not surrounded with like-minded people.
You could be a part of the wrong crowd. And it's not that going against the flow is bad. Here, I heard this analogy the other day, and it made me think about it when we were talking about this, is with, have you ever been surfing, or you ever been to the beach, I guess?
I've been to the beach for sure.
Never surfed.
Surfing, not so much.
I attempted to surf one time. One of our podcast listeners, he knows exactly who he is. He took me on a surfing lesson one time when we were in Hawaii, and it did not go so well for me. The paddling was more than I could handle. It was ridiculous.
You're wore out.
By the time I got out there, all I wanted to do is lay on the board. It was ridiculous. I have so much respect for what sort of shape those sort of people are in. But one of the things I learned over time is that, you see those waves coming into the beach.
Sure.
But inherently, you know that the water can't just be sitting at the beach, right? If those waves are coming in, it has to be going back out, right?
Right.
But you don't notice that, do you?
I mean, I guess not.
So, but you've heard of riptides, haven't you?
Oh, sure.
So a riptide is when the current is going back out. Because it has to. It has to hit the beach. It kind of eddies, and then it turns back and goes back. And it's like this underwater current. But if you really get trained, you can look and you can actually see where these rip currents are, where you can actually see where the waves aren't crashing, because that's where the current's going back. Well, why do I bring this up is that I know that it sort of feels like sometimes everything is coming to the beach, and that's what everybody else is doing.
Mm.
And then we can be looked upon as this group, the bad group, the rip current that's going back out, because you see of all the, you hear about how these rip tides cause people problems and stuff like that. But if you ever watch surfers before they go out, they look and they find where those rip currents are. Why do they do that?
To make it easier to get out there.
Absolutely. It's like riding the wave. Like they want to ride the wave out and then ride a different wave on the way back in.
So they don't paddle as much and get so exhausted.
Exactly. They're being more efficient. They're finding better ways to do it. And that's the way I feel like our community is, right? We are going against the grain. We're what some people may see is, oh man, that's risky what you guys are doing, because we're not doing that. But what we're really doing, and what our community really doing, is being efficient. They're finding the best ways to go both ways. And I know that is something that is important to help us succeed.
Absolutely. Ultimately, we don't want people to feel self-conscious about what choice that they've made in terms of where they're headed financially. We want them to have more confidence, right? Yeah. And if you're not seeing that happening around you, you just inherently start doubting, right? I mean, I'm going to give an example. I'm not sure if this applies to many people, but I know it does for you and me. So homeschooling. All right. So we both do that with our kids. In fact, you're the one that convinced me when I was thinking about it that it's
cool that not everybody who homeschools has a conversion van and wears denim, right? We do cut our hair around our house.
Absolutely. But it can feel weird when you're in a crowd and you're talking to people, getting to know them, and they're like, "Oh yeah, how old are your kids? Okay, good. Blah, blah. Where do they go to school?"
Awkward silence.
I mean, how do you hate that, right? I mean, that question is just, it crushes you sometimes. You're like, I know I'm about to lose friends right here.
I'm just wondering, when I say I'm one of the 3%ers, I'm one of the homeschoolers out there, it's funny because internally I start thinking, what are they thinking about me, right? Are they thinking that I'm judging them because I send my kids to homeschool, or that we don't send our kids to school, but we homeschool? Like, what do they think?
They
like,
think we're too good.
Am I
They
better than them?
Right.
Or I believe that their kids are, bad characters. Or I start thinking like, what are they thinking about me? And that's just like self-doubt, self-conscious nature sometimes we have. And I mean, I relate that. I could see where you're pulling that when it could happen in finance. Like if we're doing something different than everybody else, then we could start having this self-doubt. We could start being like self-conscious of whether or not we're doing the right thing.
Well, I mean, I was just on a call this morning with somebody that's listened to our podcast, and he was asking me questions like, well, why are not more people doing this? Right. So that's a community question. Wait a minute. The people in my community don't know about this.
Right.
And I think the answer to that, which I'm going to tie back to this has been around for a long time, but Nelson's book, Becoming Your Own Banker, didn't come out till 2002.
Yeah.
Nelson just mentioned that yesterday in our lunch with him. And it just dawned on me like, this is not that old of a concept in terms of as it's been put out to the masses.
Right.
So it's got to catch on. But we want to have confidence that we're not the only ones doing it. And we don't want to be that guy at the party getting to meet everybody and saying, oh, yeah, what do you do? And blah, blah. Oh, yeah, I do this infinite banking thing. Yeah. And people be like, what?
What is that?
What are you talking about?
And it's hard sometimes. It's hard to, like, you don't just rush out there to say that my kids are homeschooled.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
You're not ashamed of it. We're proud of it. But at the same time, we know that it's awkward. But yet when we go to homeschool events, when we're around each other and our wives are talking about what they're doing, what sort of lesson plans are they doing for the kids, it seems so normal. And, the Babylon Bee's great at like doing little things on this. They did one lately on Tim Tebow, this poor sheltered child who only won, one Heisman Trophy and 2 national championships, and now is being forced to marry Miss Universe, socially
so
awkward. I mean, those are the kind of things sometimes we know that it's not that one's better than the other, right? But I get the feeling, and here's where I think it ties into what we're talking about is you and I knew that it was going to be important for us and for you as a client to feel in a community, not to feel isolated, because Absolutely. It's not like we all get together here at our office or at an event, because we're all over the country. So what is it that gave us an avenue? It's the social media giant Facebook.
That's right.
Right. I mean, where else does people waste time? I mean, congregate. But it came in the form of what we call the Wealth Council.
That's right. And we haven't done this perfectly, right, Russ? I mean, we create the Wealth Council and we say, all right, guys, now we've got a place for everybody to share ideas. And what happened? Crickets. Crickets like, what? Wait a minute. People aren't asking questions. People aren't engaging with each other. People aren't learning all these great ideas that we thought that they would. Why?
Well, one, you it's kind of like you moved into a new neighborhood and nobody, brought you cookies. Nobody introduced themselves to you.
That's right.
Then you were kind of like, well, maybe I shouldn't talk to these guys. I'm a little bit weird on this.
Wait, I don't want to be the first one to put it out there, know? But so what do we learn along the way is we get to introduce now new clients as their new clients. We bring them into the Wealth Council. We tell people a little bit about them, how they came to Wealth Without Wall Street. What was their history or their past, and what do they see as the future? What do they do for a living? All those sort of things. And guess what happened?
People
Sparks.
People started engaging. You were lighting. It was the spark, right? That got bigger and bigger, and now we're seeing the fire. And I know it's going to continue to expand. And as we are talking, if you're our client, you know what we're talking about. You know that this Facebook community called the Wealth Council is the place that you can go and feel a part of a group, that you can be supported, that you can hear from other people who are doing infinite banking, who are using it in different and unique ways. And you can feel like, okay, I'm not on an island. But if you're not part of our community, you don't even know what that looks like. So let's talk about, Joey, kind of what is this process if you're going to be a part of any community? What is the best way to get the most out of it?
Well, I think step one is you've got to engage. You've got to be proactively putting yourself out there. Be open and introduce yourself. I mean, in this case, I'm just going to put this out there for those of you that have been a part of the Wealth Council and we didn't introduce you because you're one of the early guys and you're sitting there with the crickets. Go ahead and put it out there. In fact, I want to give you kind of literally step by step. Here's what we want to know, right? We want to know, we put on there on your post, put intro or introduction so we can know how to identify who this is and what they're doing, who you are, what your profession is, where you're located. And all right, here's the thing you're going to have to help us with, Russ. What is your superpower? I mean,
I'm a super talker. That's what I am. I'm a super talker, not a super listener, super talker.
Well, but seriously, I mean, we have clients that are really engaged in the real estate community. Like they're awesome at flips, or they're doing rental properties, or we have people that are doing family banking. That may be their superpower that they're talking about.
Maybe super budgeters, right? Somebody who's created tools. I mean, we have clients who have created awesome Excel spreadsheets and other tools that we use and we share with other people. Maybe you're somebody who really is a great person who does research. Like due diligence is something that you're just crushing.
Yeah, or you're a connector. I love that whenever you know somebody that does this or know somebody that does this, like you're a great resource to our community. So put that out there. We want to make sure to engage with you at those levels in particular.
Well, and I think about this in light, we're talking about a community, but we've all been there. We've all moved into a neighborhood that we didn't live in before.
That's right.
And when we move in, we know that unless we get engaged, we will always be alone. We will have this like selfish kind of scarce mentality. So what I want to encourage you to do, as Joey said, is to introduce yourself to the community, to basically go and at least say, hey, here I am. I'm here. And it would be awesome to see what people's responses are.
Okay, so that's the second step. All right, I want everybody that's in our community to be that supportive, that encouraging voice when someone does put themselves out there, that we respond.
Because that's a big thing, man. When you put yourself out there, if you go out and make a post and you say, okay, hey, everybody, I'm Russ Morgan. I'm from Birmingham, Alabama. I'm a financial coach, and my superpower is talking. And you got 2 likes or, like one, hey,
seen by 67, and you have zero comments.
I mean,
or whatever.
that can be deflating. That could be. I mean, that's the fear, right? That's what prevents us from stepping out there. That's what prevents you from going out and telling somebody you're a homeschooler. That's what prevents you from telling somebody, hey, by the way, what our family does is we use insurance policies to finance everything we buy. Or we're not in this accumulation mindset. We're in a trying to create income streams for ourselves. That's what prevents it, because we're afraid of the reaction or the lack of reaction.
Or lack thereof. Yeah. We want this to be a community of abundant thinkers, people who are adding value, right? So instead of thinking, well, I'm coming in here, what can I get from this community? It's, man, what can I add when I see someone ask a question about this? How can I answer it the best way I know how? Like, we're all at different stages of our financial journey. Some of us farther along, some of us just getting started. And we all have questions that need to be answered. And we also have our own answers that we can add to it. So add value, make sure that you're encouraging people, respond to them whenever they put themselves out there. That's a huge part of being in a community.
And I think the way that we respond too. So if you're a part of a community and someone around you asks a question and you respond in a way that is either sarcastic or belittling, or one of the ones that I notice is when you say, yeah, but...
Yeah, right? Try to stay away from that.
The word but is like, whatever you just said, I forget. I'm going to now add what I think is true. Go in with a and mindset, meaning I love what you said, and I believe that this is also important too. And that's an encouraging, that's an adding to, not subtracting from place. Because if someone feels like they're going to get their hand slapped or their neck cut off when they put themselves out there, it's going to be a community of non-talkers.
That's right.
I mean, I will say this is that we've all been in environments where someone was leading a discussion, someone asked a question, and
Got shut down.
and got completely shut down or made feel stupid for their question. What happened to the interaction of the room at that point?
It's just a
One-sided.
yeah, absolutely.
It's just information being pushed from one place.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that we want within our community is that we don't want one side. We want all input. We want, I mean, not that everything is right? And there's opportunities where we can say, I love what you're saying there. Let me show you something I learned too. And maybe through that learning tool can help that other person realize, hey, maybe there's a better way.
Yeah.
And it's not that we all have to have all the right answers, and it's not that we need to get up there and share, like shut somebody down. But if we go into an environment to where we're trying to find fault in people, we're trying to, what's the word? Whenever you're looking at something and you're trying to find fault. What is that kind of
looking at it critically?
Yeah, kind of be that critical thinker, feeling like I have to find an issue with it.
Mm-hmm.
Then we're going to look at this in the wrong mindset. So I believe as a community, we've got to come and be that encouragement to the saints.
Absolutely. All right. So first of all, put yourself out there, get out there, introduce yourself. 2, respond, add value, encourage. 3, this is kind of taking it to the next level. So this is only for those that say, I'm serious about making real progress in my financial goals. We're going to find within this community somebody that you can really attach to, an accountability partner that will help you, that you can share your goals with, that you will ask them to share their goals with, so that you can check in. So give us an example, Russ. Somebody has a specific goal. Well, and how they can engage at that level.
Okay, how do you achieve goals?
Well, you got to at least create it first.
If you don't know where you're going, how are you going to know if you got there?
Exactly.
Is that a Yogi Berraism?
Something like that.
But that really the purpose of goals is that first you have to set one. January is a great time to be setting goals for the year 2019.
Right. Sure.
What is it that we want to accomplish in 2019? We put that out there. You got to let somebody know that it exists so that someone can hold you accountable to that. So what some of us are not, perfectly confident in just sharing everything with the world. But I would encourage you in a community to say, hey, I want to reach out to somebody and say, would you mind just being my accountability person? And it could be literally through Facebook message. It doesn't have to be a phone call or a text. I mean, we don't have to like interrupt each other's lives in that sort of way. But we know that there's people in our community that we just, hey, look, I need to be accountable. And I don't know you, but I've seen you make some posts on here. I feel like you're a nice person. I feel confident that if I told you something that you'd be encouraging to me. How about if I just put on here, I just want you to know in 2019, my goal is to create $500 a month in passive income.
Yeah, that's huge.
And maybe my goal is to eliminate all my consumer debt by using my insurance policies to do it.
Yeah, those are huge. I mean, give yourself something specific and allow someone else to be a part of checking in on you, making sure that you're getting there.
So one is to reaching out to somebody and saying, hey, would you be my accountability partner? And here's what that means. I just want to share with you my goals. And the responsibility as an accountability partner is just to say yes. Put it in your phone to like private message that person once every 3 months and say, hey, how are you doing on accomplishing your $500 passive income goal for the year? Like, really, how much time does that take out of our lives? And what I know to be true is if you put a goal out there,
exactly,
you may not achieve it, but I can assure you will be much closer to it than you if you don't put it out there.
There's no question. That's like a scientific fact that it will happen much more whenever you put it out there. All right, so we are helping to create this community with you, and so we're going to put out certain things that we're going to help you with. Number one, we want to encourage you. We want to respond when you put out questions as much as possible, as fast as possible.
Well, I can tell you this is if you put a post on Facebook, we're going to agree that we're going to at a minimum like it,
Yes.
but also respond with some sort of feedback that will help you toward your goal.
No doubt. We want to share goals that we have. We haven't done a great job of that yet, Russ. I mean, but we got to put that out there.
Well, I mean, what is one of our goals for this year? What's one of the goals for Wealth Without Wall Street for 2019?
Well, we want to grow by another 50% over what we did last year.
Okay, so here's how we plan to do that. We're literally hiring 2 new people right now so that we can support you in that role. So we need an executive assistant. So we've hired one of the 2 roles, but we need an executive assistant. We need somebody who can put the reins on the stallion and I, who literally
That's a tough job.
Who can keep up with our fast-paced lives, who loves to help people, to be a supporter, but who has very good delegation, like detailed skills. An implementer who can delegate the needed things to an outside source, who's resourceful. But I think that's something I want to tell you, like, we need an executive assistant and we need somebody like yesterday. So that's a goal of ours in order for us to be able to grow the way we're going to do. We've got to be supported personally, but we also have to have internal people that can support you.
All right. Another thing that we want to do is we want to share this message of Wealth Without Wall Street on at least one new podcast every single month. We want to be guests on someone else. So if you know another podcast that you think, man, you guys would be awesome, we'd love to share this at this new community, this other podcast, share that with us. Let us know who it is that we should be talking to, because we don't know what we don't know, but we know people need to hear this.
So here's a good call to action on that. Why don't you go to that Facebook page for that group and tag us on it? Say, I think Wealth Without Wall Street would be awesome on you guys' podcast.
That would be so huge.
Because then that tells us, one, that you believe that their podcast is worthy. Like, that if you're listening to it and you think it's a good message, then that's something that maybe we can get connected. Maybe we can be on that podcast, because growing is going to be sharing this message in like-minded circles, is in circles where people believe very similar to we do. They're probably contrarian. They're probably trying to be an enhancer to growing efficiently, and not just blatantly going out and doing things that are not efficient.
That's right. So those are some goals that we have, and we love your help with them this year. That's the kind of things that we want to hear from you, so that we can also look for ways to help you.
All right. So here's some things. I want to, if you're a client of ours, I want you to engage in our Wealth Council. I want you to go out. If you haven't done this before, introduce yourself. As Joey said, tell everybody who you are, where you're from, what's your occupation, your occupation, your location. Give them a superpower. I think that's a fun thing.
Put that out there.
But if you're not a client, this is something new that we haven't done, Joey.
Yes, we are inviting you. If you're that person that doesn't feel supported, doesn't feel like you have a tribe of people that are like-minded that you can bounce ideas off of. You have questions that are not going answered. They're not being answered. Maybe you even have life insurance policies and you just don't feel like I know how to use them properly. We want you to be a part of our community. All right. So we're putting out there, I want you to go to community.wealthwithoutwallstreet.com. Imagine that. Again, really long URL, community.wealthwithoutwallstreet.com, where we're gonna have some options there for ways you can join us.
Yeah, I think that's going to be really cool. This is something we've never rolled out before, and 2019 is something that we're going to do differently here. We're going to give an opportunity for you to be a part of our community, even if you're not a client. And if you go to community.wealthwithoutwallstreet.com, we'll explain to you exactly how that works. Because I think it's so important. If you're listening to this podcast, you are one of the tribe. You're in this community. It's so fun to hear from you all over this country, how you're listening to this on a weekly basis. You're repeating stories to us when we get on the phone. It's so cool, but we want to help support you. We want to help you achieve your goals and see you achieve financial independence and freedom and whatever that looks like for you and your family.
Right. We want all of us to have the absence of self-doubt. Get rid of the doubt of what you're doing. It's high time that you literally had confidence, that you knew that you were heading in the right direction, and that you had people around you kind of cheering you on to the finish line.
This is where success happens, is when we're supported with those around us. And thank you so much, because this is your home court advantage, right? This team, it is your support system. It is the mechanism that's going to show you, how we're doing it. And sometimes when we're doing it wrong, we'll help save you from those things, because I've made plenty of mistakes. But also, we're going to be the ones rooting you on to seeing your success. So thank you so much, as always, for listening to our podcast and being a part of our community and being an encouragement to us.
This has been the Wealth Without Wall Street podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the show to break free of the Wall Street mindset and begin building wealth on your own terms in places you understand, so that your wealth will never run dry. See you next episode.